Hello, everyone. My name is Gina Rex, and I'm the Education Coordinator with the Arrell Food Institute at the University of Guelph. Thank you so much for joining us today for this Arrell Food Scholar information session, How to Become an Arrell Food Scholar. I want to remind you that if you're here today, this session is being recorded, and I would ask that if you're not speaking, if you could keep yourself on mute. That would really help us out. Thank you. I know you're joining us, some of you from all over the globe. This morning I woke up to a snowy, beautiful Guelph, Ontario, Canada weather. So it's beginning to feel a little bit more like winter here. Today we'll be covering three things, mostly. The first is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Arrell Food Scholar program, the components that make up the leadership and training for our Arrell Scholars. Secondly, I've invited three of our current scholars, and they're going to share their experience, their perspective on being an Arrell Scholar and becoming an Arrell Scholar. So they'll be able to share some tips about actually applying. And last, but certainly not least, I've invited someone from the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies here on the campus to talk about the applicant eligibility as well as the application process. So you'll have a chance at the end to ask as many questions as you need. I would ask that you withhold from asking those questions during our presentation. It'll just make our flow go a little bit better. First, I'd like to introduce my team to you, those folks from AFI who've been so good to join me today to support me. I'm joined by three Arrell Scholars, Andrew Nixon, Sujani Rathniaki, and Abdul Rahim Abdullahi. Those three are going to be given a chance later on in the session to share their perspectives. I've also invited Araya Easley, Graduate Awards Officer, and certainly, last but certainly not least, I've invited Dr. Phil Loring, the Arrell Chair in Food Policy and Society. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Phil to deliver the land acknowledgement before we get started.
Thank you, Gina, and hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. I imagine I'm speaking to you in different places all around the world. And I think it's important to recognize that wherever we are likely on land that has been impacted by colonialism, perhaps land that has been dispossessed from indigenous peoples. I'm speaking to you from the traditional lands and territories of the Washoe people in northeastern California, what's now known as Olympic Valley, and the University of Guelph, which is the home of the Arrell Food Institute, is likewise on the traditional lands and territories of the Anishinaabe people and the Haudenosaunee, and part of a larger region known as the Dish with One Spoon Covenant. And that's particularly important to the DNA of the Arrell Food Institute because it is a covenant, it is a treaty that says we all eat from this land, we all eat from this same dish, from this one spoon, and the same is true globally. And so we've tried very much in our work to acknowledge this relationship to one another, this codependence and this relationship on the natural world, but also, again, all within the context of recognizing that wherever we go, we're walking on lands that have been impacted by colonialism, and we can use our work in positive ways to make change and make a difference to reverse some of those harms. So not knowing where you all are, you may not know whose native land you're on, if you are, where, and so I've shared in the chat a really nice resource, an interactive map that you can use if you're interested to look at that and see, based on where you are, the native lands that you occupy. With that, welcome. As Gina said, we're really excited to share this with you, really excited that you're interested in joining us at Arrell Food Institute. This is a great program, and keep your questions and let us know, and here we go. Gina?
Wonderful, Phil. Thank you so much. I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about Arrell Food Institute, just a little bit of background. It began in 2017 with a generous gift from the Arrell Family Foundation. From that point on, AFI has existed to conduct research, train the next generation of food leaders, and shape social, industrial, and governmental decisions. And we do that by bringing people together. We bring people together and we keep food the central priority in our conversations. As a part of this gift agreement, the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies and Arrell Food Institute awards 4 to 6 new scholarships each year to graduate students across the globe. And who are we looking for? Well, as the video that you watched at the beginning suggested, we're looking for academically outstanding students who are committed to ensuring future generations are well-fed, diets are nutritious and equitable, and agricultural is sustainable. So as an Arrell Scholar, what will you do? Well, you'll start by doing a lot of research within your own lab and with your advisor, but you'll also have a second, I would say, family on campus in Guelph, and that's the Arrell Scholarship Program and the Arrell Food Institute family. Some of the things that you'll do, in particular in your first year, is you will take a course called University 6050, Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Agri-Food Systems. I'll give you a little more details about that in a minute. You'll also be given chances to connect and collaborate with industry and non-academic partners in the agri-food sector. You'll develop foundational skills in the 3 C's, which I'll talk about a little bit: the communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. And last but not least, you'll network and you'll be mentored. University 6050, entitled Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Agri-Food System, is a graduate course that you'll take in your first semester as an Arrell Scholar. It was influenced by the Royal Bank of Canada's 2018 report, Humans Wanted: How We Can Thrive in the Age of Disruption. This 2-semester 1 credit course puts you into interdisciplinary groups and connects you with an industry or a non-academic partner where you will solve a challenge for that partner. The point of this was from the report, was saying the report told us that we need our students to graduate with better communication skills, with the ability to cross silos and speak in other disciplines, as well as the ability to solve big problems in the agri-food sector. This is a slide that shows our current community partners that are working right now with our Arrell Scholars in University 6050. And just as a sample, I'll tell you some of the big problems that they're solving. The De La Mer Fresh Fish Market, which you can see their logo at top there, is a fresh fish market located in Toronto, Ontario. And they've asked our students to come up with some sustainable packaging solutions for their market and to find out if their consumers would actually be willing to pay for those. The Our Food Future students are asking farmers what kinds of supports do they actually need to adopt regenerative agricultural practices on their farms. Another example is Good Leaf Vertical Farms, one of the largest vertical farms across Canada, has a group of students finding out where they should focus their environmental efforts to remain sustainable and competitive. So big problems, big challenges. We put you into groups across disciplines and you work for 2 semesters to solve those problems for the partner. What that does is it connects you to industry. You connect to people outside of the university, outside of those academic walls that you are so used to being part of. You learn about the other players who are in the agri-food sector. And in some instances, this has led to future employment for our students. You also, as an Arrell Scholar, will get to connect to government. These are photos from the pre-pandemic where we had roundtable discussions on campus with our scholars and provincial and federal leaders. Because of the Arrell Scholar program, you will be asked to represent AFI at certain events. It gives you the opportunity to connect with government and leaders across the sector. The 3 C's, I said I'd return to this: collaboration, communication, critical thinking. We put you in trainings and workshops where you have to talk about your research in a plain language kind of way so that more people can access the research that you are doing. Our scholars are currently, some of the photos there you see, they're currently working with a strategic communications firm and developing a communications plan for themselves. Our scholars have also taken part in workshops to increase the ability to write policy briefs and opinion editorials. You'll also get the chance to be mentored and to network. This past year, we started a mentorship program where our scholars identified their needs to connect in industry. 5 of our scholars are currently being paired with an industry mentor to further support their career goals and position them for jobs in the sector post-graduation. Our AFI staff and our chairs also provide networking and mentorship opportunities for our scholars. Scholars have the opportunity to participate in events, in particular our own Arrell Food Summit, which brings together thought leaders from around the globe who are working to solve the biggest challenges facing our food systems. On this slide are other examples where our scholars have attended forums and dialogues with big thought leaders across the globe, trying to solve the most pressing problems in food systems. You'll build community, you'll make friends, you'll eat well, and you'll have fun. We do those things at AFI with our scholars. We give you these opportunities because we know when you leave us, we want you to have a network so that when you go off potentially back to your home, you can reach out to those other scholars that you met, that you became friends with, and position yourselves to continue to solve the biggest problems in food systems. We've chosen you to be the next leaders, and we know to solve those big challenges, we need to do it with interdisciplinary teams. I'm going to turn it over now to our 3 scholars that I have invited today. And I'm going to ask each of them to share with us their research statement. First, what department they're in and which school, but then tell us their research statement. And they should be able to do that in 30 seconds or less, since we've given them plenty of chances to practice. And then I'd like them to answer, how has being an AFI scholar benefited them? How has it helped them? And I think I'll ask Andrew to start first, if you wouldn't mind.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. Well, this morning where I am. My research statement actually changed since I wrote it back in 2019. So I have a piece of advice later that I'll share with you, but maybe you can gather what I was trying to go for. I said back in 2019 that Canada lacks strong value-added branded products to capture global markets. And I was going to investigate how farmers actually transition from primary production to value-added production. But now I've transitioned to looking into how competition policy and consolidation in the agriculture sector might constrain or influence farmers' abilities to be entrepreneurial.
Thanks, Sandra. Could you share how has being an AFI scholar benefited you?
Yes. So you highlighted it well, Gina, the connections to industry and government I've always enjoyed, but I particularly like that the Arrell Scholar program gives me a platform to share my work beyond the traditional outlets like an academic journal that are really heavily prioritized in a master's or PhD program. Certainly the events that we get to provide input on, we get to contribute to the Arrell Food Summit, which is a great opportunity for us to put out the type of work that we don't necessarily get to do in a master's or PhD program, and see how those ideas are received by different stakeholders and academics, and it's very rewarding.
Thanks, Andrew. How about Abdul Rahim? Could you please share your research statement with the folks online, and then, yeah, just like Andrew shared, like what do you think is one of the ways that has benefited you to be a scholar? Okay.
Thank you very much, Gina, for actually inviting me to speak on this webinar. Just like Andrew, so my name is Abdurrahim Abdullahi. I'm a final year PhD student in the Department of Geography, Environment, and Geomatics here at the University of Guelph. So I've been an Arrell Scholar since 2018. And just like Andrew, my research has changed over the years. I came into the program with a hope to understand how digital technologies actually change farming practices in both Canada and Ghana, mostly in Africa. But over the years now, I'm mostly focusing on just how digitization is actually changing farming practices in Africa, by using Ghana mostly as my case study. So in terms of what are actually benefits or what I've gotten from being an Arrell Food Scholar, I think if we probably want to talk about that, we'll spend the whole day just trying to list some of the things that I've gained from it. But just to highlight a few things, I think for me, much of what I've gained from being Arrell Food Scholar is actually the opportunity to network. Like Gina mentioned in the presentation, through being an Arrell Food Scholar, we've had opportunity to actually engage in conversations that we probably wouldn't have had opportunity to be in, be it from talking to government officials or community partners. And through all this engagement, we've had opportunity to actually network, create networks that we probably rely on like for the rest of our lives. And I think secondly, what I've actually gained from being an Arrell Food Scholar has been the opportunity to have my voice heard. Because everybody has an opinion, everybody has something to say, be it about your research, your life, or something. But it's not everybody who has the opportunity to actually have their voices heard in places that they can actually make change. And being an Arrell Food Scholar, I've had the opportunity to actually have my voice being heard, either through conversations, dialogues, or either through like opinion pieces that I've written in the past. And these have been made possible because of the opportunities that have been provided through engagement activities with the Arrell Food Institute. Yeah, so that's just a few things I think I want to mention.
Wonderful. Well put. Thanks, Abdulrahim. And Sajani Rathniyaki, if you would be so kind as to share the same as Andrew and Abdulrahim, your research statement, and if it's changed from the beginning, it seems like that'd be in line with the other two, which is interesting. But also to tell us a little bit about how this has benefited you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thanks,
Hello,
Sajani.
everyone. I'm Sajani Rathnayaka. I'm a master's student from the Department of Integrative Biology. So my research project has been changing a lot, but then I have finalized research statement or a pitch now. So my research is focused on detection of food fraud, specifically on the use of biological and chemical fingerprinting tools like DNA barcoding and spectroscopy to detect adulteration in highly processed food, such as sushi and maple syrup, in the long-term aim of increasing the efficiency of the fraud detection methods and workflows in lab and industry settings. So being an Arrell Scholar, I've gained a lot of benefits, just like Andrew and Abdul said. It has opened me to new window of opportunities, which I've never thought of. Because being a graduate student, I always thought that graduate studies was meant to be publications and doing lab work only. But then through Arrell Scholarship, I was given wonderful network opportunities, such as conferences where I could converse, engage, and share ideas with people, experts from local and international food sectors, especially those are involved in policymaking, which we cannot personally reach. And we represent AFI and University of Guelph on those conferences. And I had a bit of opportunities in that side, and also in effective scientific communication, and not just to write the publications, but how to publish an article that is readable and understandable by lay audiences or the general public. And also the networking, for instance, helped me to build up the career after my master's. And talking of career opportunities, I'm also paired with an Arrell mentor through the Arrell mentoring program, which would help me build up a certain career and also to represent my voice and envision my future in the broader scope of agri-food sector. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Gina.
Yeah, wonderful. You all did such a great job of mentioning certain pieces of being an Arrell Scholar, and I really appreciate that because I think it gave the group a chance to see the broad scope. So as the slide says, there are so many ways to research food. You just heard from three: integrated biology, a business major, and in geography. So we actually we have a scholar in every single college across the university, because we want an interdisciplinary approach to solving food systems. All 7 colleges are represented, and 13 departments, which I have listed here. So perhaps you see yourself in one of these departments. And I know that Araya Easley, who's on the call from the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, is going to talk a little bit, I think, about the ones that are most common. I'm going to turn it over to her now, and she's going to go over applicant eligibility. And then we'll hear from our scholars again when we talk a little bit about criteria. I'm going to ask them to give us some advice on the application process. So, Araya, if you are on, I can't actually see everyone on my call, but I'm happy to either advance the slides for you or hand
sure.
over.
Hi, Gianna. Thanks for
Hey.
the introduction. Yeah, I'll let you know when I want to go to the next slide. I think that might be easiest. So welcome to everyone who's here. My name's Arrell Easley. I'm one of the Graduate Awards Officers with the Office of Graduate Studies and Postdoctoral Studies at the University of Guelph. So I work with the Arrell Institute in administering and adjudicating these scholarships opportunities. So I just wanted to go over the basics of how to apply. So step 1 of it, anytime you do an application, is you need to check that you're eligible for the opportunity you're looking at. So first thing you need to be doing to apply for the Arrell opportunity is you need to be entering a graduate program in fall 2022. So that's next September. So now's a good time to be researching your programs and starting planning your potential programs that you wish to apply for. So that is a requirement for the Arrell Scholarship starting in fall 2022. You also want to check that your research aligns with the vision of the Arrell Food Institute. And you also want to make sure you have the required admission average. So for this opportunity, we look for a minimum first class admissions average. And a first class average is defined at Guelph as a minimum A- or equivalent at or better. So if you've studied somewhere outside of Canada, obviously you may need some little help in converting your grade to check to see if it is equivalent to an A- or higher in Canada. So for help with that, I always encourage you to contact your department that you plan to apply to and get in touch with their graduate program assistant. They can help you check your base eligibility in terms of admission average and also for your admissibility to the graduate program. Oh, next slide. When you apply for this opportunity, the committee is going to look for specific things in your application. First, they want to see outstanding academic achievement. This typically means, again, high grades. That's why we're looking for that A- average or better in your at very least, the last 2 years of full-time studies. They're also going to look at the relevance of your proposed research and your personal motivations and how they relate to the vision of the Arrell Food Institute. They want to see an alignment of ideas there. They're also going to look for evidence of you demonstrating your commitment to public engagement. And this is typically seen in things that you may list on your CV and how, in terms of your experience, volunteer work, maybe perhaps you've given presentations or you've taught. There are various ways you can show your past experience and how it's relevant to your future research. Also, as part of the selection process, there is an interview. So what happens is we evaluate based on your application, and then shortlisted candidates will be selected, and those individuals will be interviewed by the committee, and then our recipients would be selected from those shortlisted listed individuals. Next slide.
At this point, Araya, I'm just actually, I thought it would be a great opportunity for our scholars to talk a little bit. You've done such a great job of breaking down those things. And so now I'm going to ask our scholars, I guess in reverse order this time. I prepped them a bit. They have some tips and some thoughts about, oh, if I had known that when I applied. And so I wanted them to provide some advice on the application process at this time. So we'll just turn to Sujani, if you could share with us some of those things that you had shared with me over the last couple of weeks when we talked about doing this together.
Yeah, so based on my experience in the application process, one of the key advice I can give is for anyone interested is to align your proposed research project and your personal vision with the on the agri-food sector with the A5 vision and their key themes of A5. You would see the key themes displayed in a website. And once you develop your research project with your proposed supervisor, I think it's essential for you to think in which theme would your proposed project align. And then we have main documents where you have to submit your CV and a statement of motivation and on statement of research interest. So it's important that you incorporate the activities, extracurricular, community engagements, what you have done during your undergrads into the CV and also into the statement of interest or motivation. And you have to sort of maintain a flow or a connection in between. And if you're shortlisted, you're invited to an interview. So in the interview, you're given a chance to elaborate and explain some details like certain collaborations you have done. And so within the time you're given a fair bit of time. So you should be able to explain in a very detailed manner. And you have to be very genuine also, and just to highlight and pitch yourself so that you get highlighted among a broader number of applicants because the process is competitive. And in terms of CV, I know a lot of international students, they use different CV formats. I think it's important to do some search or research and have a good format for an academic CV. You have all the details briefly, but also in a more elaborative way. Yeah, those are the advices that I can give to prospective applicants.
Great. And just as a reminder to folks who are listening, this is recorded. So like what Sujani just shared with us, you may want to come back and look at the recording because that's a lot of information that, of course, she didn't have when she first applied. So thanks, Sujani. And how about Abdul Rahim? Would you mind sharing a tip or two for our prospective applicants? Abdul, you are muted.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, I think a couple of the things have already been mentioned, but when I try to talk to people who are prospective applicants, I think I always try to tell them that at least there are two things you have to pay so much attention to. Your CV and the statement, because those are like the entry points, because those things will speak for you first before you even get the opportunity to speak for yourself in terms of being invited for the interview. So I always say that you have to spend a lot of time working on your statement and you have to spend a lot of time working on your CV. And more particularly, you have to try to show how versatile you are as an individual. We all know that, of course, before you apply, you probably know that you've met the academic requirements. So almost everybody applying has met those academic requirements. But how will you differentiate yourself from the rest? And that's where those extracurricular activities come in. You should be able to highlight those extracurricular activities on your CV. And just like Sujani mentioned, and on the statement as well. And one thing I always like to tell people too, nothing is very small or irrelevant. Sometimes people underestimate what they have done and they don't really see that this might be important on my application. Everything that you've done outside school activities, outside school academic work can actually count as extracurricular activity. And you should be able to highlight it on your CV. You use it to sell yourself. And when it comes to the statement, I like Sujani was mentioned earlier too, it's important to make sure that you connect your research, and that's something you work out with your prospective advisor as well. You connect your research to what the Arrell Food Institute is doing. There's a broader goal the Institute is trying to achieve. So of course, you should be able to highlight how your research will help in actually driving that goal, be it now or in the future. So I think these are just a few tips that I would like to share, and probably Andrew will be able to add a few more.
Yeah, go for it, Andrew. I mean, I've actually written some notes, but there are certainly some themes through both Sujani and Abdul Rahim's. But I want to just focus a little bit on his, and do not underestimate the things that you have done outside of your academic work. I think that's a really important thing to remember. Thanks, Abdul Rahim. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thanks, everyone. It's hard going third because people say the things that you were thinking of already. But I want to pick up on what Abdul Rahim mentioned about not just aligning your research interests or your research statement with the goals of AFI, but also demonstrating how it's going to advance those priorities. So one of the things that I said, I was the first candidate for the scholarship in the business college, or business school now. And I said, my PhD in management under the supervision of Dr. Simon Samoji, who's the Arrell Chair in the Business of Food, will augment the portfolio of research the AFI carries out beyond innovations at the production level by considering cases of innovation at the process level. So that's like one thing that you can clearly say, you know, the AFI has done this. Here's what I'm proposing to do. Here's how it actually advances what they want to accomplish. And I also tied my research interest into national policy goals for agriculture and demonstrate how that would advance the priorities that the national government or what's going on at the global policy level is also important. So you can demonstrate that it has impacts beyond just, you know, your academic world. Another thing is to emphasize your understanding of the food system. So your unique understanding. For myself, I stressed that I gained insight into the issues I wanted to study from years spent in industry, and also then from my master's research at the time. And I also provided tangible examples of what I did and how that demonstrates that I have the potential to be a food systems leader. And so that's one thing we're trying to select, you know, the next people who are going to be change makers in the food world. And so we're looking for skills beyond just being a good researcher.
Well put. I think if I could go back, I think I'm hearing that one theme is definitely want to connect your research to the AFI themes and mission. To do that, you need to connect with your advisor on campus to have those conversations early. But then I really like what Andrew was emphasizing there is like, make it tangible, make it authentic. I think I heard Sujani use that word in her piece there. Like, we want to see a genuine, authentic, but we also want to see that you're going to be able to do something in a tangible way on that application. It's a big challenge, but I'm assuming you're here because you're ready to take it. So I'm now going to hand it back over to Araya to continue to talk about the application.
Okay, thank you, Jana. So for the scholarship funding, there are two levels of awards. There's a master's levels and a doctoral level. So their yearly value is the same. What differs is the length of time of the award. So a master's student, if you are successful, you would receive $50,000 per year for up to 2 years, so maximum 6 semesters. And for a doctoral program, you would receive the $50,000 per year for up to 4 years, or maximum 12 semesters. So the way this is paid out is it's applied directly to your student account in 3 equal installments per year for the duration of the award, while you are registered as a regular full-time student. Obviously, if you, for example, took a leave of absence, you can't receive a payment while on a leave of absence, but your payment would be deferred to a future semester. Another note too is obviously you must be registered. So when you complete your program, let's say you even completed your program, let's say before the end of the award, You can only receive the award from the semesters in which you are enrolled in your program. Now, the application process for Arrell does require a couple steps. The most important thing you have to remember is there's actually 2 applications you need to submit. The graduate application to an actual graduate program, as well as the scholarship application itself. So step 1, we recommend that you first connect with a prospective advisor and work with them to see if they'd be willing to support your application and provide a letter of support for your Arrell application. So this is a requirement for that part of your application. Once you've found an advisor willing to support you, next step is going to be to make sure you look into completing a full graduate application. This is where connecting with your department's graduate program assistant is going to be very helpful, because the exact admission requirements for each program at Guelph can vary a little bit. Some departments and programs may ask for a little bit more than other departments. So you always want to check in and make sure you have everything that they specifically need. Third step then also is to submit your online application for the Arrell Scholarship. So for this one, could you go to the next slide? So for the Arrell Scholarship portion of your application, it's going to be comprised of 3 basic items. 1, your statement of research interests and personal motivations. So this is maximum 2 pages, references not included. This is meant to be your chance to really say how your research and your background, it all aligns with the Arrell initiatives and how you're a good fit. Okay, so this is your chance to really write a research statement and show how it fits with the Arrell. This might be a little different than the statement of research you may also submit to your department as part of your graduate application, since that application they will only want the focus on your research in the department. Right, so you may want to think about writing your research proposal in 2 ways. One way that is suitable for applying to your graduate program, because they will ask for a research proposal there, and then also this proposal where you need to tailor it to the Arrell Scholarship. You also then need a copy of your CV, and again, the letter of support from your prospective advisor. Now this year, we do have a new online GRIF form that will help you submit your Arrell Scholarship documents. Gianna, if you can switch to the next slide. So I just have a screenshot here of what the first page will look like. So there's a link to this on our graduate awards website for the Arrell Scholarship. If you click the link, you'll be taken to this page here, and this will allow you to start the online application. And you can see here, it'll ask for all the essential information, your name, your email, ask you to confirm your email, and it'll also ask for your student ID. So this is part of a requirement. So make sure you submit your grad application first, because after you submit your online graduate application, that first step, within up to 5 business days after, you'll receive an email with your University of Guelph email address and your student ID number, and you need those in order to put into this form. Okay, so that's why I listed the grad application as before this application and your steps. Then this form here will let you, this is where you're going to upload your statement and motivation that's specific for your Arrell application, and you'll also upload your CV. We also ask you to input the name of your prospective advisor and their email address, and again, confirm their email address, and then hit submit. When you hit submit, first thing that's going to happen is you'll get an email to your University of Guelph email account asking you to just click and confirm. And that's the purpose of that is just to confirm that the system has your email right, and will continue to send you notifications as needed to that email address. Once you've done your confirmation, the next step is the system will automatically send an email to your prospective advisor asking them to submit their response. And they'll be able to upload their letter of support directly into the application system and hit submit. Okay, after which you'll get another notification to let you know that this happened, and that your last step is to confirm. There'll be a link to you hit to confirm that you both completed your Arrell Scholarship application and completed your graduate application. So next slide, please. So there are two major deadlines. Okay, it's because we have this application process that has two applications. We've divided our deadlines. So we ask that you ensure that you have started your online grad application, the UAC portion of the application, no later than February 22nd, 12:01 a.m. And also that you start your online Arrell Scholarship application also by that same deadline, because we want to make sure your prospective advisor has time to actually submit their write and submit their letter of report before the final deadline on March 3rd. Okay. It also, after you do your grad application online, you still have to upload documents to that application as well. So we want to make sure you have that little bit of time in between before the final deadline to get all your supporting documents submitted. So the last deadline is March 3rd, 12:01 a.m. So that means you have to have all your required documents for your grad application submitted, and you want to make sure you hit that select the confirmation email, you respond to it to confirm that you've completed all your steps. I just want to take a special note on the times on this. It does say 12:01 a.m. That means the application systems are closing when the clock turns to February 22nd and March 3rd. So it's a little confusing the way the system works, but just make sure you're done before the clock switches over to those dates. All right.
Lots of details. Thank you so much, Araya, for taking the time and walking our participants through that, because it is a complicated process, and you have to do everything in a certain order. So I'm learning as well, right along with them. So thank you so much. At this point, I'd like to open it up. We have about 15 minutes left. I'd like to open it up to questions. Let's see. I have Florence has raised her hand. If you want to go ahead and ask your question, Florence.
Hi, thank you so much, everyone. Amazing presentation, and thanks for all the time put into it. So my question is more along, I have several, but I guess I'll wait and see what others have to ask, but is looking at, because I haven't studied in North America for graduate school. So maybe when you say graduate school, it also includes PhD, obviously. So the first question then is, is there a limit, or is there of which graduate school you want to apply to? Does it matter which graduate school you're coming in from at the University of Guelph to apply for this scholarship?
Araya, do you mind fielding that?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure. First, I just want to make sure I understand the question you're asking. So are you asking if there's regulations concerning what studies you've already completed, or how many applications you wish to apply, programs you wish to apply for?
No, what I'm asking is, does it matter which graduate program you apply to be able to have this scholarship? Because I think a few of them were listed in the very beginning. So
right.
Are there certain graduate programs that don't qualify?
Right. So Jenna can correct me if I'm wrong, but you need to be doing research that fits the vision of the Arrell Institute. So
Okay.
Some departments can be very interdisciplinary. So sometimes on the surface, it may not seem like someone in a specific program would be eligible. However, if their research project is suitable for the Arrell Institute, it may still be suitable. You may still be able to apply. Does that make sense? So for example, sometimes a program, if you're in a business program, on the surface that may not immediately seems appropriate, but if the research project in that program is suitable, then yes, you could be eligible. Does that make sense? So I think you have to really focus on what your research is and whether that research is going to fit under the Arrell Institute's initiatives.
Okay, great. Yes.
Yep. You're absolutely right, Araya. Thanks for expanding on that. And we do, as I mentioned earlier in those slides, we have scholars represented from 13 different departments on campus, as well as all 7 colleges. So if you go on our website, you'll be able to see on the AFI website, you can click participate, go down, find scholars, and you'll see all of our current scholars as well as alumni. And, I know we have Emily Khalil, who is in the same class as Andrew, who is a history major. So that is a question that someone asked in the chat. Can the candidate from non-science background also apply for this course and scholarship? Absolutely, yes. And we encourage you to do so. And as Arrell said, the work for you then is to convince us, I guess, that the work that you're doing, that the research you're doing is actually going to impact, food system transformation. So yeah, I would, for those of you who are asking those kind of questions, I'd encourage you to look at our website and take a gander at our profiles of all of our scholars, and that will help you get a better sense of our scope, as well as our chairs. So Dr. Phil Loring and Maria Corradini and Simon Samoji are also doing research across all over the food system. So it's pretty broad. I just want to ask another, so that was one question also in the chat. And then Arrell, how many potential students will apply each year for the scholarship? You had sent me a table. I can't remember off the top of my head. Can you? I want to say like about 50. Sorry, I can't hear you, Arrell. Okay. Last year, I know we had over 55 applicants who applied for the Arrell Scholar. Arrell would have a better sense, and she did send me a table last month when we were working together, and it had sort of the spread from 2017, which is when we first announced and rewarded, until the present day. I'm not sure where Arrell got to. How about this? Camille has a really great question in the chat. How can anyone speak about the interview process? How many interviewers and what is their background? Academic, industry professionals. I sat on the committee last year. Dr. Evan Fraser, who's the director of the Arrell Food Institute, and another member of the graduate and postdoctoral graduate studies department sits on the interviewee, as well as a representative from the Ontario Agricultural College. Those were the interviews last year. So it is an academic, or academic colleges who do the interviews. Let's see. Is there any chance to join AFI program via a sabbatical leave? Phil or Alice, I know you're both on the call. Could you answer that one? Is there any chance to join AFI program via a sabbatical leave? I don't
think so.
Yeah.
I mean, because our programs are at least a minimum of 2 years for the master's generally in most programs, right? So yeah, I think that would be something more along the lines of sort of a professional fellowship that lasts for 6 months or 9 months or a year. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Phil. Okay, and Arrell had put in there, we receive about 50 applications per year, so I was right. How many are awarded each year? We award between 4 and 6 scholarships annually. I want to make sure I'm not missing any of these. And thank you, Charlotte. She put in the actual link to go and look at the scholars on our website that I mentioned earlier. How many students will apply? I think I've answered everything. Do scholars have to be based in Canada for the entirety of their studies? Is there a minimum requirement for being on campus? Very good question. The pandemic has obviously provided some interesting transitions for our students.
present, I can speak to, and Alice again, or Phil, if you, or any of the scholars who want to chime in here, because I'm not sure if I have all the information, how we're going to proceed. But right now we do have scholars who are not geographically located in Guelph, Ontario. Partly that is because some of them haven't been able to arrive due to the pandemic. But I believe moving forward, we would want people here in Guelph. And I'm going to actually, I'm not sure if we have anything written in our guidelines to.
The first place that would probably be the location for guidelines for that would be the student's home department and program.
Yep.
Whether they are allowing PhD students, for example, to come in fully remote. And I think, because I think most departments are playing, some more than others perhaps, are just sort of seeing where it goes and taking those on a case by case basis, rather than having, I'm sure there is a uniform policy with a lot of gray area in which departments are making their own decisions. So it really depends on the program and the student.
Okay, so check with your program first. Thanks, Phil. That's a really great question, and I agree, a little bit fuzzy and murky at the particular time. Another great question here, and I do think this would be for Araya and the OGPS department. Would you advise someone that has below the 80% A- minimum requirements, but with a great CV that includes publications and work experience in relevant sectors to apply?
So we have two things we have to consider. Okay, so there's both your admissibility to the graduate program and admissibility for the Arrell Scholarship. For this Arrell Scholarship terms and conditions do say that the minimum A- is a requirement to be eligible. So unfortunately, if you were below that A-, you would not be eligible. However, just because you may not be eligible for a specific scholarship opportunity, that doesn't mean you wouldn't be eligible for your graduate program. In terms of your program eligibility, you'd have to check with your department specifically. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll move on. That person, if that doesn't answer the question, please provide, if you'd rather ask that in the chat. If you need some, you can follow up that way. Is there any age limit to apply for the scholarship? No. Does the research have to be in line with the Canadian food system, or can you target a country in the global south and creating agricultural development there? It does not have to be in line with the Canadian food system. Abdul Rahim is studying, Canadian, but also the agricultural system in Ghana. Could you kindly provide more insight into what is expected from the statement for application? Should we restrict the focus on the research project for the applied studies, or can we speak about the broader future research interests? How about one of our scholars who's actually applied for this and received it? Could you provide any insight to answer that question for Ajwal? Thanks, Andrew.
Sure. Just to talk about the research statement, I wouldn't only talk about the research project. So I think I was limited to 2 pages or something when I wrote my application, and these changed somewhat. Let me pull it up now. I think maybe the first page talked about the research project that I was going to do in about a paragraph or 2. And then the remainder of it, the next 5 paragraphs, are mostly about my experiences and my ability to demonstrate like leadership potential and all of the other things that we've mentioned in terms of why the work that you're going to do is important. I did not particularly have space to talk about what I hope to do after the PhD.
Great. Yeah, and I would echo what Andrew said, and that you don't just want to focus it, you want to make this as broad as possible. I just want to note the time, we have about 4 minutes left. We'll try to answer as many of these as possible. And this is also for the Office of Graduate Postdoctoral Studies. Is your general graduate application considered in addition to the application material for the Arrell Scholarship? For example, will the selection committee review the letters of recommendation and research proposal that is just for admission to U of Guelph?
Yes, so that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yes, part of the reason why we ask for that full graduate application is that we do reference use the reference letters submitted as part of your grad application for your Arrell application as well.
Great. Another question for you, Arrell, still on the question of grades. Different universities have various ways to classify grades. Some universities have grade A starting at 70%. What is roughly your A?
Okay, so at Guelph, A- is an 80%.
Yep.
So you have to have a minimum 80%. However, yes, we know where the A's and B's are designated on a percentage scale can vary a little bit even between Canadian universities. So we have specific conversion tables that show us how other schools' grades compare to ours. So we always do a check and a conversion. That makes sense, to determine if you have the equivalent of our 80% or better.
And I think that answers the next question too. And Sia, is there a minimum GPA score required for master and bachelor while applying for PhD?
Okay, so there is a mandated minimum for all graduate programs set by the Office of Graduate Studies. However, every individual department or program can also raise that minimum GPA for their program. So for that, it's best to go to your graduate program assistant directly and verify what they require you to have for their program.
Great. Yep. Thanks for reminding them that's really a great place to start, is with those individual programs. And each department has a GPA or graduate program assistant that is there to help you answer some of those questions.
Yeah, so no department can require less than B-, but some programs set that requirement higher than a B-.
Sorry, I'm reading Janaza. I want to apply for a PhD program for September 2022 and the Arrell Scholarship. I'm currently enrolled for a master's program, which I will complete in 2022. So this person will have 1 year transcript, but I will have the complete transcript at the end. Can I apply with my MSc first year transcript before the deadline? So they're in course, Araya, and won't have their first year transcript.
Right. So
Okay.
typically when someone's applying for a PhD while they're still in progress on their master's, your admission average is basically your admission in your master's program at time of application. So as long as you have, so you'd have to make sure you have your minimum 80% or better in your master's program to date at the time when you apply to be eligible. But again, yeah, as long as you have your plan to start the PhD in September, that means you have to obviously finish your master's by the August. But yeah,
Okay.
then you could still apply.
Super. It's 12 o'clock here, and so we're going to finish the session. I will encourage you to watch it again and share it widely with your networks. Encourage you to apply. And the questions that you may still have, spend some time on the Arrell Food Institute website. Click the Arrell Scholarship. You will be directly taken to the Office of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies, which Araya has been on the whole time, and obviously is filled with tons and tons of great information that can assist you. And email me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about Arrell Food Institute or the University of Guelph in general. So I'm going to sign off now, not without thanking all of you who came today, as well as the AFI team and Araya, who were able to support me in this. So thank you very much.